Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, in whichever part of the world you are. Happy to meet you one more time in Babu for Heritage YouTube channel as part of a series of lectures on temple art and architecture. First of all, today, happy Dasara greetings and Vijayadashami. On this festive season, I thought of putting a contribution in terms of talking in detail about Saktha culture, which is focusing on the Devis as females as deities, and also how it developed from mother worship from the earlier civilizations to the current forms. Yesterday, on Ayudha Puja day, on Saraswathi Puja, we released the first part of covering from the later civilization, how the mother worship transformed, evolved over Vedic period, and stabilized into a Saktha cult of worshipping three primary set of Devis, Parvathi, Lakshmi, and consorts of Brahma. In continuation, on Vijayadashami day today, we are going to cover the next part of Sapta Matrikas, river gods, and the 64 Yoginis, the unique concept, the iconography, and the related fantastic temple architecture. Let me share the presentation. So, in today's discussion, we'll be covering the second part of Saktha cult, the Sapta Matrikas, river gods, and 64 Yoginis, and their related Agama, the interesting iconography, and a beautiful architecture like how we are seeing here. Again, as usual, we acknowledge the contribution of Google Endeavor for the content and the Wikipedia Pujari for collation and giving beautiful references. Images we have taken from a lot of interesting contribution in Facebook by Ravichandran Veeramani and the Heritage Arc and others. Pictures are also taken from Kevin Standage, fantastic collection of yoginis. In terms of books, two major books, Ganapati Sthapatis Sirpa for the definitions, and the Yogini culture and temples for Vidya Dehejiya, and the standard elements of iconography by Gopinath Rao. In terms of content and clarification, a great help was the Srinivasa Rao's blog. In addition, my training through Tamil Heritage Trust in handling several site seminars and listening to presentations of Professor Sankaranarayanan and Ramakrishna Kunkala on iconography of Hindu gods, and also the Amrita University Mayamatam course conducted by Professor Manoj and Kanipe Krishnan was of great help to understand and make this presentation. So, if this is a fairly extensive and nice one, the credit goes to the content taught by these people. And if there are any mistakes or something, probably this is due to my gap in understanding of these concepts, and you can give me a feedback directly offline. Now, to get a recap of the yesterday first part discussion, we were discussing about Puranic female deities. From the basic mother worship, it evolved into the detailed concept of Durga as a Mahadevi, a epic principle, and the Navadurgas covering the formation and the life cycle of a female. Then the major group of Parvati, who is linked as consort of Shiva, and also Dasa Mahavidyas, identifying various aspects and contributions of the power of Shakti. The next one is Saraswati, which was earlier the river god during Vedic time, which got integrated into as consort of Brahma and the key for education and wisdom. Lakshmi, which was the Vedic Shri, got transformed into a consort of Vishnu, and then she is responsible for the wealth and the wellness of the people. And similarly, Gayathri, the earlier Vedic god in charge of all the mantras, become a mother of all mantras and also a consort of Brahma. In addition, many of the divine rivers, like Saraswati, are also deified into feminine god forms, like Godavari Krishna, and then the Sapta Matrikas. So, the feminine forms of the powers of the male gods, which we are going to detail in today. Finally, the concept of 64 yoginis, where these are created by the Sapta Matrikas, each one creating 8, and this concept includes many of the Vedic deities which were forgotten and also many of the local village deities. So it gives different combinations. Now let us go into the river gods. In India, we worship land as mother. That's why Bharata Mata. Unlike in Europe and others, the land is worshipped as father. So here it is the feminine form. That is a major difference. The exception is our national anthem, which was done during earlier British period. If you see this, our rivers, most are named after females, and except the violent rivers like Brahmaputra and some others, which are in the male names. Most of the rivers are in female names. This has been again identified iconographically and with some of the Agamas, and these are also are part of the 64 Yogini group. So, in Hirapur, you have a fantastic collection of this, and I am showing some of the samples. This is Ganga standing on a makara, and then Yamuna standing on a turtle, and Narmada standing on an elephant, and Kaveri standing on a pedestal of flowers. So, like that, multiple gods are there. So, rivers were worshipped, and then rivers are worshipped as holy, and then their events and their activities and their important places in their transition are also celebrated with lot of temples there. I have done a separate presentation for the holy rivers and the locations which they are detailed and how rivers are worshipped in all aspects in Indian culture. You can see that video later. The next concept comes to Sapta Matrikas. What was there from the earlier times of worship? 7 mothers are identified and worshipped. The composition varies slightly from different Puranas. Devi Mahatmya in the Markandeya Puranas talks about the gods releasing their power to attack Antakasura or Raktabija. So when Shiva was trying to kill Antakasura, from his blood, multiple asuras keep on coming. So this Sapta Matrikas and others drank the blood and ensured that no further new demons came up, and then Shiva was able to vanquish this. There is another version in Vamana Purana which mentions the creation of Saptamatrika from Vishnu when he was distracted during his penance. Again, in many areas of India, the river goddesses or the village goddesses are identified as 7 virgins or Sapta Kanyar, and then they are worshipped almost like a Saptamatrika form. What we have here is the 7 matrikas. Do you have 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Later on, for convenience, Narsimhi also is included. It was mentioned in Devi Mahatmya and added as an alternate matrika and expanded to include the convenient 8 by 8 matrix at a later part of time for the 64 Yoginis. So the normal ones are the Brahmini, which is a power of Brahma riding on swan, Maheshwari, the power of Shiva riding on bull, and it is signifying of lightness. Kaumari, the power of Muruga, and then it is signifying the siddhi of heaviness riding on peacock. And Vaishnavi, the power of Vishnu, and her yoga is omnipresence, Prapti, and he rides on Garuda by going into all over the place. Varahi is the representation of one avatara, incarnate. This is the different one. Avatara of Varaha, and it is the fulfillment of will. That is the Siddhi we have. So the Vahana is again a Varaha, and Indrani is the origin of power of Indra, and it is in terms of control, and she rides a Vahana of Airavata. Chamunda is a representation of Durga, which is control, and she rides an owl. Finally, the addition is Narasimhi, again a power of avatara of Vishnu. This is Narasimha, and it has got control over desire, and she rides again a lion Vahana. So, this Saptamatrikas have been in concept aligned with the powers of the male gods, and also they had directional capabilities like the Ashtadigbalas, and they had their own Vahanas. This iconography has been there for a long time. So even in, maybe you can guess this seal, this is from Indus Valley, Mohenjo-daro, even there were 7 ladies looking at in the group and in this seal. So they say that this is an a worship or a significance of seven seals, but this might be a financial token also. Nobody knows, and then we are yet to decipher this. But the number seven ladies signifying this is got an interesting pointer. Again, this celebration continued in early days, and it is very, very popular in the eastern shore, and particularly in Odisha also. There is a Sapta Matrika temple in Jajpur. So this in Odisha there is a lot of tribal worship, and these tribal gods have migrated and transformed into the Sapta Matrikas at a later point of time. So we are saying that the Saptamatrikas are the feminine forces of the prime gods. So what it means iconographically is that they inherit the weapons and inherit the vahanas of all the prime gods. So here is a South Indian representation of Saptamatrikas. Normally, earlier it were only seven. In the later inscriptions, later styling, they also added two securities to the seven ladies. One, the baby Pullayar, and the full-grown security Veerabhadra. So seven become nine. You can see the names Ganapati, Brahmi, Maheshwari, and then Kaumari, Vaishnavi, Varahi, Indrani, and Chamanda. So this is a very clear iconographical detail. In many places, this has been broken, and individual whatever slabs are available are also kept in individual worship. Let us see how the Sapta Matrika concept is represented in North Indian panels. So this is a North Indian panel, probably from Khajuraho or somewhere else. I have forgotten where it is. Here, the sequence is very clear, and the Vahanas are also very clearly depicted here. So there is a Veerabhadra with a dog, and then Brahmi with a swan, and then Maheshwari with a lion, and Kaumari with a peacock. And you have Vaishnavi with a Garuda, Varahi with the boar, and Indrani with the elephant, and Chamunda with the owl, and Ganapati with the Moshika. So very, very clear representation, and also the heads are represented for Brahmi in South Indian. She is clearly represented with the four heads, and Varahi with a boar head, and later period Narasimhi with a lion head. So this is the concept of Saptamatrikas. So coming to the 64 Yoginis. The 64 Yoginis are the extended set of female goddesses which were expanded out of Saptamatrikas. So this is the complete set, and you can see different forms, different content. The details are not so sketchy because to compress so much into a single slide is a challenge. So this, in a nutshell, represents 64 variations of Devis. In terms of creation of the Saptamatrikas, so they are created to help Bhairavas to kill demons, and they were created from the 8 Matrikas. There is an alternate version that they sprang from Devi's tears or blood to drink Antaka's blood, like how the Sapta Matrikas, the 64 Yoginis also mentioned to be sprung out of Devi. This is the reference from the Markandeya Purana. The third variation for the source is integration with village deities. So whatever was the famous village deities and the local deities got integrated into the list of 64 on a wider worship of female goddesses. So this can be very clear, understood by the different names, which are not there in typical agamas, and also the variation of names from one region to other. There are multiple versions available, which is specific to a particular region. Then let us see how they are defined in agamic definitions. Chausati Yogini Tantra, the specific agama, talks about the mandala location where each yogini should be there, the mantras for each of them, and the ritual worships for invoking the powers. The Brahmaya Mala Tantra, this talks about yogini clans, the group of yoginis, the direction in which they are sitting, and their connection to the related Bhairavas and for sadhana. Again, the later Agni and Skanda Puranas talks about the origin of the divine power, the Kalpa Veda, and prescribe what kind of Homam and Bhuta rites need to be performed for each one of them. And still later, Kalika and Brahmanindikeshwara Purana, it lists all the yoginis, mapping them to the Sri Vidya yantras or the Kshetra Balas. This is equivalent of your Bhairava, and how these are to be worshipped together. So, this gives a definition of what yoginis are, how they are created. So, let us look at how the 64 yoginis were formed from Matrikas. So, when we talk about Mahasakti or Durga, it is the ultimate power and which is shown by this 3 triangle yandra. From her, it sprang 8 Matrikas and they were allocated different directions and different powers and different characters. So Chamunda, the power of Durga, and Narasimhi, the power of Narasimha in northeast, and then Brahmini, the power of Brahma, focusing on east. Maheshwari, if you look at this, normally Brahma is on the north side here, whereas Brahmini is on the east direction. Maheshwari is aligned for southeast, and Kaumari, the Murugan power, is on south. And Vaishnavi on the southwest for the Vishnu, and Varahi, again a Vishnu power on the west side. And Indrani, the Indra power on the northwest. Normally, Indra will be on north or northwest. So, this is the primary Matrikas, the 7 Matrikas, and a later addition of Narasimhi. Then, it is said that each of these 8 Matrikas created 8 Matrikas on their own, on their circle. So, if you see in a 64 Yogini temple, these are the prime 8 segments in the circle. So, your Kaumari related 8 Matrikas or the Yoginis will be there in this part only in the sequence. So, The mandala is also fixed on the control and the directional spread based on this orientation. For example, Chamunda created 8 yoginis: Chamunda, Trilokya, Santa, Isani, Chamandika, Kamini, Durga Yogini, Krodha. Similarly, Narasimhi created another one: Narasimhi, Mahaprabhu, Lalitasa, Pragna, Vajri, Yogambika, Kamaduka, and Bhayamukta. So these are some. So all these definitions are relevant to the version that is available in Hirapur in Orissa. So different temples have different variations. Brahmini has got Bata, Sivananda, Dakini, Siddha, Prana, Chaksura, Samaya, and Karuna. When we talk about Maheshwari, she has got a collection, and Vagisi, Jnana, Lalita, Sara, Chamunda, Bhagati, Mahanandi, and Kali. The Mahanandi is again a river. When it comes to Kaumari, we have Maya, Guhya, Yosita, Sarvi, Arvati, Jwala, Rauraveni, and Shri. Shri might be the Shri, Lakshmi, or something else. You need to explore it. And interestingly, the Chamunda is getting repeated in 2 places for Chamunda as well as Maheshwari. So that also need to be explored more. In terms of Vaishnavi, you have Sudha, Payini, Adya, Malini, Jwalini, Subha, Karnika, and Vajra. And for Varahi, Durga, Rohini, Bhadra, Varahi, Chandika, Mishra, Kesanta, and Prakashika. Here, for Indrani, we have Indranadi, Indrananda, Sarvasiddhi, Kauli, Shivalinga, Yamini, Shukta, and Ardra. So, that is how the 64 yoginis are found. The names are specific to the region, and each Purana mentions different names, and they have regional variations, and they may be pointing out to the same deity but by different name. Having seen the iconography, we are going to see the temples available for 64 yoginis. Earlier, there used to be a lot of temples, in particular around the Gangetic plains and some outside the Gangetic plains. There were around 20 temples which earlier existed, out of which currently we are able to find only 9. And the key ones are like this. The one Hirapur, which we talked about, the iconic representation we saw now. This is a Hirapur one, the circular one on 895. And the second major one is the Khajuraho. Interestingly, that is a rectangular one, 920 CE. Ranipur Jarial is a circular one, 10th century. Mitwal is the great one, Ekatraso Mahadeva, again 10th century. Jabalpur one is available. Mata near Udaipur, Rajasthan is there. And Mitali near Morena, there is one circular. And Kanti near Chitrakuta in UP. This is interesting. Later period rectangular. It might have existed and renovated. Udaipur Kankali temple, rectangular 12th centuries. So, in addition to this, there were many Yogini temples which are lost, but remains have been excavated archaeologically, where we get partially, we get 5, 6, 12, this kind of bunch of Yogini kind of sculptures from ruins. From that, we can understand that at one time there was an extensive temple covering either circular or rectangular plan. Now let us explore the iconography of the Yogini sculptures. When we talk about this one, like we explained earlier, this directional mandala is very clear. The statues are arranged in a perfect circle to mirror the order, cosmic order. So there are 8 clusters relating to each Sapta Matrika, and then in each cluster is shown each Sapta Matrika, it has got its own 8 yoginis in the proper sequence. Again, many of the yoginis bear animal heads and then also have different vahanas. They are neither standing, dancing, seated, or in royal Lalitasana. Weapons, they have a variety of weapons and some with only mudras and blessings. In terms of ornamentation, again it varies. Garlands of skull, bone, jewelry, and fierce expression like this. And then again it focus on their domain, whether on life or death or rebirth. Again, they have a varieties of animals, birds, boar, crocodile, horse, donkey, everything. And this signifies their shape shifting and mastery over natural forces so that they can roam everywhere. Again, this iconography is not a standardized one. So no two sets are similar, and each region has got its own variation with the name changes in names and the inclusion of local devatas. So there's a challenge in 64 yoginis. When it comes to architecture, we have in India broadly 3 architectures. One is the Nagara, North Indian style, Dravida on the southern style, and the Vesara, which is typically a mix of both and which is there in the Middle India region. In addition to Vesara, there is another variation. This is typical of Odisha and the Middle Belt, where, and this is again prevalent mostly in the Gangetic Belt and the Narmada and other areas, which is the Hypetheral architecture for 64 yoginis. So this forms a unique design, which we will see in detail now. So this is one of the beautiful temples at Hirapur, which has got an entrance and a circular and a central sanctum. The interesting part is open to air. So this is what is called as hypetheral design. This is roofless sanctuaries where the yoginis communicate directly with cosmos. They can also fly, they can change forms, and they can fly out and move everywhere. So that is one of the logical reason for not having a roof. Again, in mostly it is a circular mandala. The earlier ones were rectangular ones. It is again invoking yantras rather than the axial sanctum sound to Mount Meru concept where everything builds upon a height. So here, another interesting concept is there is no presiding male deity. The central chamber usually is empty or yeah, the Durga shrine is the yogic circle itself is a concentrating power which resides there. Normally, these temples, since they are tantric temples, they are not part of the city location. Either it will be on the outskirts near cremation ground or a river head or on hilltop. This reflects the fierce boundary crossing nature. So here we have 64 niches and each small niche will occupy a unique sculptural form. So each 8 segments will cover one Saptamatrika. Again, this is aligned with the cardinal direction and with the proper alignment so that it is relevant for ritual and there is a circular pathway around this. So again, it is a tantric mandala where all the gods focus onto a central point. Now let us see these temples one by one. The key temples, few temples, we will have a glimpse. First one is the Hirapur Odisha temple, and this is the ground overview of the same temple. You can see the circular one with entrance. So this is located outskirts of Bhubaneswar, Korra district, near a river channel. It was built by Queen Hiradevi. Baumakara dynasty had a unique trade where the later part, the dynasty was ruled by queens. So the Queen Hiradevi built this temple. That's why it is called Hirapur. So it is a 8-meter circular temple built in sandstone. So there is an entrance porch and the sculptures inside. Here the sculptures are in sandstone, whereas the sculptures inside, which we saw earlier, are of chlorite, which is a hard granite kind of a substance with very good amount of polish. So some have been already stolen and only 56 survive. Now the central sanctum contains goddess Kali on a human head. This may not be the original statue, and it is a later period statues. So this architectural form mimics the Yoni pedestal. This entire thing mimics a Yoni pedestal with the Om and the entrance to the Om through the vulva. So this is an Yoni Linga concept and again a tantric form. The second interesting historical temple is available in Khajuraho. Not many people visit this. This is in a far off eastern group, a little distance away from the core eastern group. We need to walk a distance. So this is how it is done. The interesting thing is you can see the grand Khajuraho, the Kandariya Mahadev temple on the background, and this is constructed on a rectangular place. So this was conducted by Chandela dynasty around 900, and it is a rectangular of 31 by 18 meters square. Originally, it is said to contain 65 cells based on the plans available now and the remainings of the basement. But currently, we have only 35. Nothing is available in terms of murtis. Only three Matrikas sculptures, which were recovered during the later excavations, are now available in museums. The interesting part is the cell lintels, where it contains the popular erotic sculptures which are available, similar to the ones which are available in the Khajuraho other temples. Then, the next older temple in Odisha is in Ranipur Jariar in the Balangir district. So again, it is a small one, simple one, and it is a gated community, like our modern day gated community. So we have a gate, and then the entire community of 64 live inside. So there is one of the earliest excavated Yogini temples, much before the Hirapur was found. But it is a later period construction in terms of date, 900 to 975 during the Markandeya period. So again, it is larger. The earlier one in Hirapur was 8-meter diameter, whereas here it is 15 diameter circle. The interesting part in this is that all the yoginis are in dancing pose. We have recovered 62. And there is a central uh, enclosure where a Nritta Siva shrine is there. It may be later period or it may be soon. So again, it is a fusion of tribal deities and Tantra with animal heads, cremation ground motifs, and other things. So, again, one more interesting temple. The ultimate one is the Ekatraso Mahadeva in Morena, MP, very, very near to the great damaged temples, which was earlier reconstructed by uh, Professor Mohammed of USA. So, do you remember? Have you seen this design elsewhere? Yes, this is the design. This is the design which was replicated in our old Parliament House. The exact design with the pillar, corridor, and other central hall and all. Only thing is they put a dome on top of it. So this is the inside view. You have an entrance, you have 64 cells and a central tower. And this is how it looks inside. And we have 64 cells and the central hall where a Shiva Linga is available now. So it is built by Kachapakada king Devapala in the 11th century. Here it is large, from 8 meter to 15 meter. The diameter is 52 meter. So 65 chambers are there. And I think, as usual, they have been looted in museum. And see, they are yoginis and they got flying powers. And all of them have flown to overseas. They got visa, no restrictions like how our Trump is giving $250 fees and other things. So even before Trump comes, they have flown to overseas locations. And this has been replaced by Shivalingas in 14th century. So only the external facade is carved in a beautiful way, internal with utilitarian pillars. The interesting part is there is all the water collected here, it gets siphoned off below the central one and then goes out to a separate stream. So fantastic hydraulic handling. And this entire temple is on top of a hillock in a fortified way. So we have seen temples in riverside, temple in Mayana side, and then temple on hillside also. Then we are going to other interesting temple on Dudani Akada, which is in UP Lalitpur. Here you can see the remains of a 64, but sadly only a small part is remaining. This is built by Chandelas. The finish is beautiful, but this is 50 feet diameter. 50 feet is around how much? This is 15 to 16 meters. It's a smaller one. Again, there are 5 here and 12 here, which are the only thing that are standing now. The rest has been collapsed and may be taken for local construction and removed. Okay, there is one more temple in Japalpur, Bedaghat. There is a temple. We see only the regular shrine. What you see like a prakara structure is the actual Yogini temple. Like how we have prakaras, the rectangular prakaras in South Indian Tamil Nadu temples. Inside the Yogini circular temple, Grand Yogini circular temple, they have built a modern day proper Vimana based temple here. So here again it is a extended shrine, 9 into 9, 81 yoginis. So 8 matrikas and mother goddess, it forms 9. So 9 delivering 9, 9 by 9 is 81. So that is a extended version. The most imposing and well-known temple, and it has got a beautiful covered walkway and the sanctum. And this is a later period shrine built in the Nagara and a mix of Nagara as well as the Bhumija kind of styles. Again, there is another old dilapidated temple in Gadarmal Devi, Badav, in the Vidisha OP. It's very near to the Vidisha monuments. Again, people don't visit this. So here, it's an interesting story. It's a very old temple. It is a fusion of Pratihara and Parmara styles. Okay, something similar to what we have in Telika Mandir. It contains Hindu as well as Jaina idols in these temples. And you have the main temple surrounded by 7 smaller shrines. So this circular one contained 42 niche yogini temples. And they have recovered around 18 broken sinks where the bottom half has been already broken. Interestingly, we also find a colossal bas relief sculpture of a mother and child inside the temple. It is again proposed or guessed to be baby Buddha. So if it is true, then this is a temple which is covering 3 religions, Hindu, Jain, and Buddha religion related artifacts. What we see so far are the temples which are available to us. In addition, this is the list of temples which has been lost to plunder, disuse, and others. Lokari in UP, 20 images, and then Nareshwar MP, around 20 images shifted to Gwalior Museum, and Hingalagar in MP. So this was damaged and submerged in the Gandhi Sagar Dam, and the recovered statues have been a huge collection of yoginis which has been shifted to the museum. And there is something in Rikian UP where there are remains of 64 yogini temple based on the plan. Again, a 4 slab from Rikian is with their yogic powers have flown to US and now available in Denver Art Museum. Yoginis are available in Shadol, and then they have found a lot of things, and for a change they have moved to Indian Museum in Calcutta. Again, why talk about North India alone? Even in South India, near Chennai, we have found remains of an Yogini temple in Kaveri Pakam and in Kanjipuram also. So, the same style of Yogini sculptures were recovered in a tank near Kaveri Pakam, and then they are identifying remains of a Yogini kind of a temple based on the plan. These are now available in Madras Museum, and some of them have taken the visa and gone to Brooklyn Museum, Minneapolis Museum of Arts, Detroit Institute of Arts, and Royal Ontario Museum. So, these yoginis have been smart and moved before the visa restrictions came in. The sad part is we have not recovered, we have not recognized our things. When we talk about temples, the temple is lost one due to plunder by enemies, but around 50% of the temples are lost primarily because of disuse. People start visiting them, they don't care, they don't appreciate, and then when a place is not visited regularly, trees grow, plants grow, and then it engulfs, and gradually the construction gets dilapidated, the stones come loose, fall out, and naturally people take these stones out for their own use, and over a period, the entire temple is dismantled or covered in mud or totally destroyed. So let us appreciate whatever is temples which are remaining, nurture them, value them, and then keep them in good use. Instead of creating so many other small temples and creating a population of temples, instead of maintaining the old beautiful temples which were given to us as a gift. So, to conclude, from prehistoric Harappan times to the current classical temple deities, the Devi has remained the central figure in the religious history. The very fact that Saktha culture got stabilized in 10th century and it has grown into a detailed one with its own Agama, iconography, and its rituals, temples, and everything, is a clear indication that in Hinduism, the mother god and this has got a very good place. This is expanded into a very fine definition of 64 yogini classification by integrating the myth, scripture, art, space, and integrating the local village deities. It has gone into a beautiful transformative power of feminine innovation. So, in this day, let us celebrate the motherhood, the feminine beauty, the power, and worship, and take it to the next level. Thank you all. Thank you till we meet again in one more presentation. If you like the videos, subscribe, share to like-minded others, and then view and support us. In my YouTube channel, more than many of my similar recordings are available, and it also contains a collection of 100 plus playlists on various topics like the series of architectures, series of sculptures, series of iconographies, history, and various Indian knowledge system related subjects. Thank you. See you till our next video. If you like it, please add your comments on the bottom of the YouTube. Also suggest us what are the new interesting topics you would like us to cover. Thank you. Thank you all. Thanks for listening to an interesting 45 minutes plus on the Saktha cult and yogic power. If you like it, please leave your comments, suggestions in the comment section of the YouTube, and also suggest us what are the new interesting topics which we can focus and come up with detailed videos like this. Thank you. Goodbye till we meet again.